Do you have problems with your network? It won't be long before network speeds exceed a gigabyte per second. Elon Musk, the CEO of SpaceX, intends to do just that via Starlink. With the support of Starlink's top-end broadband network and Google's amazing cloud services, Google Cloud Services announced its partnership with SpaceX to build a new business to promote faster delivery of data and a wide variety of cloud-based apps to users. This partnership will deliver a slew of new features to internet users all around the world. With amazing speeds and connection consistency, the Starlink network will be able to provide all types of broadband services to clients such as enterprises, education, and data centers. SpaceX was the first to introduce it. Starlink is a satellite internet constellation that gives internet connection to the majority of people on the planet. In mid-2021, the constellation will have around 1,600 satellites and will eventually have several thousands of mass-produced small satellites in low Earth orbit that connect with existing ground transceivers. While satellite internet service is technically available to the majority of the world's population, actual service can only be supplied by governments that have given SpaceX permission to operate inside their federal authority. The beta service is presently available in 17 countries as of now. Of course, if it works as advertised, it will be a game changer. SpaceX is aiming for 2 initials for spaceflight using Starlink. The first is that they are mass-producing satellites in large quantities. Satellites are often one of a kind and exceedingly expensive because of launch costs and the need for long-term dependability. You can't repair these devices once they've been put up there. Because Starlink satellites are constructed on a production line, it doesn't matter if some of them fail because they are only expected to last 5 years and must be rebuilt frequently anyway. Previously, satellite technology was frequently several generations behind what was currently in use on the ground. Again, this is due to the usage of elements with demonstrated reliability, which is critical. On the other hand, the Starlink satellite's technique will be continually improved. If there are damages, changes to the layout are made. If new technology becomes available, it is also integrated. In essence, it's a brand new spaceflight method that has never been tried before due to the prohibitive cost of launch services. If Starlink proves to be a success, it has the potential to catch up to the rest of the satellite commerce. It can change everything. Then there's the fact that Starlink will be the world's first satellite mega constellation, delivering low-latency broadband services to every corner of the planet. It is possible that it will not be financially effective for city dwellers. However, for consumers who live in rural, distant, or mobile areas, it could be a game changer. Have you ever considered viewing Netflix from a ship in the middle of the ocean? Well, with Starlink, there won't be any problems. Every Tesla should have a broadband hotspot connection everywhere they go. Done and dusted. Want to put up a cell tower in the middle of nowhere but don't have access to fiber optics? You can now do so. The receiver antenna ought to be tiny enough to carry on a hiking trip or perhaps within cell phones in the future, allowing truly infinite high-speed broadband range everywhere on the planet. The sky is visible. Let's look at the numbers we'll need. The telecom market in the United States is valued at roughly $1.5 trillion every year. Just in the United States, there is $75 billion in untapped capacity. Musk claims that the 60 satellites cost less to build than to launch, estimating total costs at $80 million per launch and 6 liftoffs per year to put up 360 satellites. And the network's upkeep costs less than $500 million each year. That is a pittance in comparison to the demand potential it taps into, especially when billions of people around the world lack broadband access. So, these are the figures when it comes to revenue. Astronomers are also concerned about other issues. SpaceX will launch its Starlink satellites in groups of 60. They walk in a roughly identical orbit, but their paths diverge because they are traveling at slightly different speeds. After some cycles, they are no longer noticing any long chords towards dawn or dusk. They're still in the sun, although the Earth underneath them is still black. In the dark, it looks very much like the lift cabins of a train. Nobody expected them to be so conspicuous, and while astronomers are already struggling, it will be less of an issue once they reach their working height. SpaceX initiated matches throughout 2 weeks, indicating that the issue has been there for some time. One of the satellites released at the end of 2019 has a realistic dark surface, but SpaceX is still evaluating how effective it is and whether it poses a risk to the satellite's operation. The main source of the issue is that solar panels are designed to be flat to save drag, making them considerably more visible from the ground. While the satellites are migrating to their final orbits, it may be appropriate to deploy them in the opposite direction, and the reflectivity of these satellites has now been minimized for future launches. We can no longer see the Starlink train because they have raised their orbit levels and changed their course. The night sky will not be ruined by starlight. The Kessler Syndrome, if there is anything to be concerned about, is it? Collision avoidance, on the other hand, is critical for any massive constellation of satellites, especially if Starlink receives more competition in the future from businesses like Blue Origin. Then there's the matter of what makes Starlink unique. Is there a company that does the same thing? NASA, of course, would have launched just 1 or 2 satellites per package. But Elon Musk, who is known for thinking outside the box, deployed 60 at a time as part of his brilliant Starling plan to deliver high-bandwidth data to everyone by revolutionizing the way devices interface with satellites. Previously, data was relayed separately by satellites to Earth's surface stations, which clogged bandwidth and increased latency. However, Musk's plan will completely rewrite the rules by constructing a massive network of tiny satellites that will use laser broadcast to make interconnected linkages, forming a mesh-like connection in space and allowing only particular satellites to connect to base stations. This, in principle, will not only lower costs and latency, but also increase revenues and bandwidth. Each Starling satellite is equipped with a Ku bandwidth antenna for transmission and a krypton ionic thrust engine for action, indicating that they are cutting-edge propulsion and communication systems. These satellites are also the first vehicles to use a krypton-powered ion motor in orbit, if that wasn't enough to blow your mind. It started as a NASA introduction experiment in the early 1990s, but it never became a reality until Elon Musk got his hands on it. Is that enough to make you want one for yourself? The second space race is already underway. There are around 7 billion people on the Earth, which implies that there are approximately 2 billion households, each of which expects high-speed internet access. In first-world countries, the idea of paying around $30 per month for gigabit speeds would be very appealing, and they could easily offer this for $5 a month in second-world countries, making it affordable for a family in a poorer country. Assume that each household can only afford $10 per month. This equates to $20 billion every month and $240 billion in annual revenue. Most high-tech corporations have a 10x multiplier for valuation, implying that the company has a market cap of $2.4 trillion. That's more than double the size of the world's most valuable firms, such as Google, Apple, and Microsoft, which are valued at more than $1 trillion. Musk's initial estimate of the number of satellites quickly expanded as he planned to acquire a piece of the $1 trillion global internet connectivity market. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission has given SpaceX permission to launch 12,000 satellites, with the possibility of up to 30,000 in the future. To put things in perspective, there are currently only 2,000 operational satellites orbiting the Earth. According to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, only about 9,000 rockets have ever been launched throughout history. Satellites in the Starlink constellation orbit at a height of 340 miles. They're low enough in altitude to be dragged down to Earth by atmospheric drag and flame up in a few years, rather than becoming space garbage once they expire. Each one weighs 500 pounds and is roughly the size of a coffee table. The first few Starlink satellites moving together in the night sky were thrilling to watch. But then there were more, and then there were more. Astronomers became concerned. On May 23, 2019, the first 60 Starlink satellites were successfully deployed aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. In 2022, the Starlink team plans to launch up to 60 additional Falcon 9 rockets per flight, with launches occurring every 2 weeks. With SpaceX's intentions, along with Amazon's Kuiper project, OneWeb, China's Hongyan, and other projects launching their worldwide networks of hundreds or even thousands of satellites with little to no control, astronomy's satellite constellation problem may only become worse. In conclusion, have you ever noticed a cluster of brilliant satellites crossing the night sky? SpaceX Starlink satellites, a bright, massive and moving mega-constellation, are most likely to blame. The purpose of Starlink is to provide global broadband coverage for high-speed internet access, with a focus on rural and isolated locations. Astronomers and skywatchers are concerned that Starlink will obstruct their efforts to understand the universe and their pleasure of the night sky. Starlink may be able to profit from the revenue generated by these large corporations. Musk's profits will be doubled or tripled as a result of Starlink. Musk will be able to find all of his crazy ideas with ease if he can get Starlink to work. Congratulations for making it to the end. If you want to see more interesting videos like this one, do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to get VIP access to our videos. Thanks for watching, everybody, and just before you go, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. With that said, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.